Hey, Awesomes, how's it going? Well, we're kind of through week one for the most part, and heading into week two. So I wanted to make sure at least get a video out to you, kind of go over week two with you. Quite a bit we got going on this week. It's one of our heavier weeks as far as getting stuff done. So I wanted to kind of go over some of that information with you, as well as just comment briefly here on your the discussion post over the weekend. I think everyone, by and large, did an excellent job of responding to, replying to the post, and then creating that conversation with your fellow classmates in your replies and in your responses. I think everyone did a fabulous job focusing in on what Markel had to say about what technical communication is. And then I think you guys did a really, really good job of kind of discussing some of those main points. Many of you brought in examples, etc., to think about a little bit more deeply, if you will, what technical communication is and its importance and its relevance, thus this class, right? So that it does hold value and weight beyond the fact of you checking it off a list of your required classes. So I was really pleased to see a lot of that discussion. I would just perhaps briefly state that when you're replying, which I think by and large most of you did, to always keep doing what you're doing, I guess. Make them positive, respond to those positive things. I think by and large, I don't think we had anybody who was, I guess you just be cautious, make sure we're not critical, pretend like you're in the class, right? So if you probably wouldn't say it with someone sitting next to you or sitting in the room with you, then we wouldn't type it either in our discussion posts. So keep those things in mind as we continue, because we're going to do this every single week. I will try to do a better job of actually participating more in the conversation than I was able to this weekend. So please forgive me there. I'm going to try to get on later today, perhaps, and make some comments too. I'm about, I think this is week two. I think I'm at the end of almost week two. I think it'll be 2 weeks this Tuesday or Wednesday. So I had stomach surgery, had my gallbladder removed, and so I have occasionally better days and then some not so good days. And so finally having a good day. I've had a string of about 2 or 3 days that were not the best, and I'm really getting sick and tired of drinking broth for all my meals. So trying slowly but surely to incorporate actually eating real food. So I hope to be able to do that tonight. So anyway, you don't really need to know all that, but anyway, so I've been kind of a little bit preoccupied the last couple of days, so I apologize for that. But all right, so let's take a look at week. I'm going to get down here, put myself down here in the corner. Hello. And so let's take a look at week two. We got a lot, as I said, we have a lot going on this week. So week two is about kind of our first part of the job search, if you will. And so our readings are Kramer and Bernhardt, and here is the link to it. So if you click on it, it'll bring the PDF right up for you in this window. And then, of course, as you know, you've got in your upper right-hand corner of the actual screen, there is the option to download the text. Now, a couple things I do want to say about Kramer and Bernhardt. I will be referring back to Kramer and Bernhardt a lot over the next 13, 14, 15 weeks, okay? So please make note, especially when they talk about their main points, right? They're going to talk a lot about hierarchy. They're going to talk a lot about active and passive white space. They're also going to talk a lot about design, how to incorporate those designs, and utilize these items in every single piece of technical communication that we write, from memos to reports to responses to everything that we do. And so they talk about these. I've got this nice bulleted list right here on the bottom of page 38. And this will, especially this first one, see the page as a grid, will really come into play as we start to think about our resumes this week. And I mentioned the active versus passive white space. Then we'll have text structures that help guide the reader. They will talk a lot about, with these 2 bullet points especially, creating a typeset look through appropriate use of proportional fonts and spacing. We're going to talk about serif and sans serif fonts. Now, a lot of this has to do with that hierarchy that they're going to talk about in this piece. So I encourage you to, while this is says it's teaching text design. It's also about learning text design through thinking about how we teach it. So please do pay attention to that as you read that article. And then, of course, Markel will read Chapter 10, Writing Job Application Materials. Obviously going to be very applicable to us. And then more design as we design print documents, all right, for this week. All right, so based on those and the 4 readings, then we've got the link here to the English, the owl.English Purdue. It's a resource for resume design, and they will talk a lot about gridding. It'll talk a lot about quadrant, or what we might also call that gridding as far as Kramer Bernhardt's terminology. And then they're going to talk about, also reiterate a little bit to us about serif and sans serif fonts and their importance in hierarchy, and then the 20-second test. And those are things that you all, I'm going to be using these as a lens as we look at, as I would look at your job application materials. All right, so based on those readings, we'll have I'll post a discussion post prompt. I'll get that to you by Wednesday, and then you'll post your replies to the prompt by Friday. We'll get into a regular routine here, right? And then you'll post replies, again, 2 of your classmates by Sunday. And then, in addition, this week we're going to post, I'll put a section under your CRN number for peer review number 1, which is going to be our Project 1 draft. And then please continue your annotated bibliography as well. A quick note on the Project 1 draft that's due this week. So I'm going to put myself back up here in the middle for this. All right, so thing to keep in mind about your Project 1 draft is I want you to actually go out and locate and find a real posting that you feel that you would actually want to apply to. It can be in the form of an internship, which is something that you'd really want to do, that maybe is coming up that would be applicable to your skill set and that which you are going to college for. And then there's also the option of applying to your dream job. What's that dream job that you would want to apply to? So you need an actual job posting that you can copy and paste into a PDF document so that I can see the actual job description, qualifications, etc. And then you will also want to have your resume drafted by this week, by Sunday night, as well as a cover letter or an application letter, whatever you want to call it, in which you write specifically to the company or the person, right, who's in charge of hiring, if you have a name that you can put on there, or a hiring manager, or whatever, and then follow along a lot of the points that Markel makes in what makes a strong and important, more successful, perhaps, job application letter and a resume materials for your for this assignment. So because we want to make this as realistic as possible, something that you could actually use, think about using. And lastly, or finally, I guess I should say, if you're going to do the option where you're going to apply for your dream job, then you'll need to write your application materials as if you are done. So you will need to put on your resume those things that you feel that you would need on that resume. So they're going to be fictitious, right? But and then same thing with your job application letter. Some of it will be fictitious. So while some of it will be fictitious, the result will be you'll have a resume and an application letter that you could think about. It would work also kind of as a guide, right, or as a checkoff list in some way that you could use to say, okay, if I was going to apply for this dream job down the road, and they're looking for X, Y, Z things, and those are kind of things I'd want to highlight on my resume and in my cover letter, then you would also want to think about, okay, if internships are then they're going to be important, right? They're going to want some sort of experience, or they're going to want some sort of materials from me. They're looking for maybe a completed project or some work that I've done, either collaboratively or individually. And then you're going to put some of those things in your resume to fulfill their requirements and qualifications. Then your resume then can kind of serve also as a roadmap, excuse me, of things you'd want to think about doing in your for the rest or the remainder of your time in college, and things that you might want to think about. So keep that in mind. So those are your 2 options. So I'll be back hopefully later on in the week, maybe, with if you have any more questions about that, I do want to talk a bit more about the resume. If you're going to start on your resume right now, I'll tell you, do not use a template. Design it from scratch. Use the things that we learned in Markel, Kramer, and Bernhardt, and the Purdue OWL website to design your resume. All right, guys. 10 minutes. I didn't need this video to be so long, so I apologize. So I wish you all a most wonderful week. I'll be back in touch. You guys take care, and as always, please do let me know if there's anything more I can do for you. I got office hours this Tuesday and Thursday, and I'm happy to meet you anytime if those office hours don't work. All right, guys. All right, stay awesome. Bye.